Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. If you're new, it's lovely to have you here, and if you're not new, thank you so much for coming back. This week, as you can see, we're in a different location. We're at my crafting desk, and this is where I do all my DIY and my creations. Quite a few of you have asked for some more DIYs, so if you keep up with me on Insta, you'll have seen I've been doing quite a lot of ring making and a little bit of other jewellery making. So I thought now that I've sort of got the hang of it a bit better, I would let you see what I've been up to. We're going to have a look at some of the things that I've made already, that I've managed to remember to take pictures of, because I've given away so many things, it's ridiculous. I haven't got that many earrings to show you because I've given away all of them pretty much and forgot to take pictures of them. I've got lots of rings to show you and some pendant styles, and then I'm going to show you how to make a ring, which should be quite exciting, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit and you'll learn how to make your own. So before we carry on, don't forget to like this video. If you haven't subscribed already, I highly suggest that you should do so that you can see all the things that I come up with. And if you'd like to buy me a Ko-fi, the address of my Ko-fi page is in the description. So without much further ado, let's get on and I'll show you what I've been up to. Some of the rings I've made I'm really happy with. There's this one which is made from a button and some beads, and in fact here is one of the buttons, just to show you it is an actual button. This one is made of two different sizes of beads. This one is made of just one bead, and I've made another ring with the same sort of bead, which is slightly different. So I've got two made out of those beads, but they're different sorts of rings. That one's a present for somebody. This one, which I really like, is made of 3 amethyst chips, and I bought a bag of mixed gemstone chips that are already pre-drilled with holes in them. So that's really one of my favourite rings that I've ever made. I made this one out of a button as well. This was sort of like what they call either a nest binding or a messy wrapping, or it was really just to practice making things out of buttons with, and I quite like that one, but it's only with my practice wire. I've got different sorts of wire, all different gauges they call it, the different thicknesses of wire. But I have got some very cheap garden wire that I usually do my practicing with, and that's made of those. And then there's this one, which is actually adjustable, because as you can see, it's not actually joined up in the middle, and you can adjust it depending on the size of your finger. And that's these lovely black and grey shiny beads again. I have made a couple of bracelets actually. This one's for me, and this style of bracelet is called a ladder bracelet, and I've used these beads with very big holes, and you put a button on one end. So I've got this nice it's part of an old bracelet, it's like a little angel on there, and then you attach all the beads, and then when you do it up, you just put it through a bit at the end. Well, you get the general gist anyway. And then I made one a little bit different, but the same principle, for a friend whose birthday is coming up. And in the centre I've put a bead that I made myself out of Fimo clay, which I was bought for my birthday by my lovely friend Jo, the author Josie Lloyd, who you remember from my Cancer Ladies Running Club novel videos. And this is glass beads, my Fimo bead, a purple wire, and then to attach I've just put a chain, so that I don't know exactly what her wrist measurement is, but obviously she can do it up whatever that is, and I've put a little bat on the end of it, so that just does up like that there. Now this is one of the first necklaces that I made. I made this one for me, and as you can see, it's just 2 tiny little chips of gemstone and some spacer beads on a head pin that I've made a loop at the top. And this was before before I learnt to make proper loops. I have actually got, amongst all my many pliers and tools that I've collected to do all my jewellery making with, I've actually got a proper tool for making loops, and it's called a one-step looper, and it does it for you. But I didn't get this until after I'd done this one. I've also got this very cool plier with different sizes on to make different size rings and loops, and I really like that one. What else did I do in terms of necklaces? Well, I've made some pendants to go on necklaces, and these I'm really quite pleased with. So they've got different shapes to hold your interest. So that's like a shape, like a round triangle. This is also like a round triangle but taller, and that one's got a little row of beads hanging, and that moves when you're wearing it. That one, the bead is wired on. And then there's this one, which is a circle, and that's got a big bead on the top and a little bead hanging down. And then in terms of necklaces, I've got this one, which I made from Fimo clay as well. And as you can see, I made like a marbly effect out of 2 colours of clay. There's some more of the beads that I made. And if you remember that bat that I put on the bracelet for my friend, I used a similar one to press into the clay and leave a bat impression, so it looks like he's flying across a sort of galaxy. And then you just make a little joining thing. This is a nice little bit that you can get from any jewellery company. And then to do it up at the top or the back, I've used a slightly different, instead of just a lobster claw joiner, I've used one of these because I really like these, and they look very pretty if you've got short hair and you can see the back of them. I mean, I did also make this one, which is super simple because I bought the charm online, and that's all you have to do is you just buy something, get some cord. If you're getting waxed cord, always check that it's vegan, because some of the wax is not, and on most of the sites that I've used it does tell you whether the waxed cord is vegan or not. And this has got obviously the phases of the moon, and I just put it on the cord and attached the ends. And I did find a pair of earrings that I hadn't sent to somebody. These are they. I really like them. They're super statement-y. They've got 2 parts, so when you wear them they're going to really move around and catch the light. And I've used black wire for these, just for something different really. As you can see, this is my desk with a whole pile of the things that I use. This is called a ring mandrel, and you use it for sizing your rings and making sure they're round and making sure they're the size you want them to be. And this is the cutest little anvil you ever did see, with a hammer for hammering the metal, and you can either flatten it or just harden it. And I just think it's so cute. You can do flat bits here, round bits on here. It's such fun. And then these are all the different types of wire that I've got. I have sent off for some antique bronze wire, so hopefully that will arrive soon. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make a ring using a button. And it's very straightforward. All you need is some wire and a button, basically. I mean, there's all these other tools and things, but you can always use something else. Like, say for example, you haven't got a ring mandrel, you can use anything of the correct diameter. It might be a tube of something, or something from the kitchen, or a piece of wood, anything that's the right size for maybe a ring that you own already. Anywho, let's get on with it. So I'm going to cut about 18 inches, something like that, and this is 20 gauge wire, and that means it's not very thick, quite easy to do by hand, and you just find the middle of it like that. And here's a button. Here's that button I showed you earlier. Just ordinary button, bought in a haberdashery shop, and we're going to put it on the wire. And that's the great thing, if you've got a button lying around at home, you can just use it to make jewellery out of. So we'll just put it on there and twist it around so it doesn't move. Then you look at the mandrel, and if you're in the UK, you use letters to find out what size ring you are, and if you're in America, it's numbers. So I know that I need something in the region of a 6 to 7 for either of these 2 fingers, and because of the way that you do the wire wrapping, the rings always shrink during the process of making. So I'm going to start it at the number 8, and I'm going to wrap one end of the wire above and one end below. So if you remember your Ghostbusters, you never let the streams cross, and you try and get it straight. There we go. Pull it nice and tight so it can't get away, and do it again. There we go. So that's 3 times round. You can do it as many times round as you like, that you feel comfortable with. And then I've got, what have I got? I've got 3 strands of wire, and they will obviously come together as we go along. But first we're going to wrap one that way and one that way to get it nice and centered, and we'll do it again. Wrap it round that way, wrap it round that way, and that is going to hold it nice and strong, and pull it off the mandrel, and we will go back and make it nice and rounder at the end. But as you can see, there is our button held in place, and then all we need to do is push each tail through, and you can do this as many times as you feel necessary to make the ring nice and strong and firm. So we just push it through with our finger like this, pull it. I've got some pliers here so I can pull it a little bit harder, just to make it tight, and I usually do either 3 or 5 wraps and then squeeze them together like that. There's 3. Let's do another one. I mean, you could at this point put a bead on here, another bead like I did with the ring that I showed you earlier. So for example, here's a bead, and I could put it on here if it will go. There we go. And then carry on wrapping. It's a bit big, but you get the idea, you get the general gist anyway. So then we turn it over, and this time it's going this way. Push it through, and that's the thing with this 20 gauge wire, it's pretty easy to do by hand. I mean, occasionally you do need to get your pliers and give it a bit of a pull, just to make sure it's nice and tight. And with wire, the bigger the number, the thinner the wire. So, and conversely, the smaller the number, the thicker the wire. So a wire that's 17 or 18 gauge is much thicker and much more difficult to do by hand. So let's just squeeze these together a bit more. There we go. So that's nice. And then you just take your wire cutters and cut it as close as possible. Again, cut it as close as possible. And then you get your pliers again and just squidge it in, following the direction of the wire. It almost tucks itself in, and just make sure that there's no sharp edges, no sharp where you've cut it. If there is, you can give it another go with the pliers, or take a little file and just file the end off like that, and then you can put it back on your mandrel. And as you can see, with all that wrapping, it's somewhere between a 6 and a 7 now, even though we started on an 8. Take it off, put it on the other way, just to make sure it's nice and even. You can straighten your button up there, and there you have it, a lovely ring. And you can always make these quite easily. As you can see, that didn't take very long at all. And I know that if you've got people that you need to buy gifts for, you'd much rather give them something that you've made yourself. I know I would much rather receive something that somebody's made for me than something, you know, that they've just bought in a shop in a hurry on Christmas Eve. And buttons, easy to come by. You can use this sort of button as well. You might use matching wire to attach it. You might use contrasting wire. I've got some of this coloured wire, so you could use that. This is very thin and not strong at all, but you can use it to attach it to the main wire and then make the ring after that. So there's the ring. Well, thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you've learnt a few tips and tricks about jewellery making, and that you'll definitely have a go. If you do and you are on Instagram, then, you know, give me a tag and a shout out, and I'd love to see what you come up with. Make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. Make sure that you're looking after all your animals and pets and all the natural world that exists around you. And until the next time, I will say, don't forget everybody, you make sure and stay strange. Bye for now, everybody.